Welcome to the First Watch podcast. My name is Drake. I will be your host for this podcast. I will be joined by a rotating group of friends who come together and discuss their first watches, whether they be from the 1920s, the 2020s, or anything in between. Now, this is going to be a spoiler heavy podcast, so if you haven't watched the movie already, you could either do one of two things. You could either, one, join us for the conversation and decide whether or not you want to watch the movie for the very first time, or two, you can pause this podcast, go watch the movie for the first time, and then come back and join us for the conversation. Now, without further ado, sit back, relax, grab some popcorn, and enjoy the combo. Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the First Watch podcast. Today, I've got a new friend that I met not too long ago who also has quite the love for movies. He himself also has a podcast called The Real Lovers Podcast. You can find him on Instagram under the name Marley Loves Movies. Give it up for Marley.
Thanks, Drake. Thanks for having me. This is honestly really humbling that I'm your first guest for the start of this new podcast, the
Yes,
First Watch
sir.
podcast. So thank you for having me to talk about. I'll let you introduce the film that we're talking about because it was pretty interesting. When I said I haven't seen this movie and you're just like in the group chat, you're
I
just
was like,
freaking out.
what?
And, yeah,
Yeah, no, to be fair, I had only seen this movie for the first time last year,
hmm
a little over a year ago. Because I'd obviously, okay, so to start, we are talking about the movie Seven. We are talking about one of my favorite movies. It is actually in my top four on Letterboxd, mostly because one, it is a good movie, but two, I am too lazy to change my top four on Letterboxd. We are talking about the movie Seven, directed by David Fincher, starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. This movie was done in 1995. I believe it released in 1995. And for some reason, the first time I watched it, I just gravitated toward it. Loved it immediately. It's a very dark movie, as we were talking about prior to recording.
hmm
And it's just, I don't know, man. There was just something about it that I loved. And I'll let you, I want to ask you, where did you hear about this movie?
Honestly, I've heard about this movie for like the longest time, and probably
Yeah.
one of my things that I've, especially since talking about movies online and on the internet, when a movie becomes so kind of like widely available and you see like the memes everywhere, and I haven't seen that movie yet, I don't really feel the need to watch that movie at all because it's like it's so much like in popular culture and like film Twitter. I'm just kind of like I don't really need this movie in my life. So I kind of like let it go, kind of let it pass by and I'll just go on move on to other movies since there's so many movies that release every single year. So and my watch list is just incredibly large. So I knew it was like really people really love this movie and like the memes that came from it are kind of insane and pretty funny, but yeah, I don't know, it was just kind of like a mystery to me for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. I think that I had obviously heard What's in the Box maybe a million and one times on the
Yeah.
internet. You know, Kevin Smith had an entire like unboxing show with Jason Mewes
hmm
titled after What's in the Box based on the movie Seven. And
hmm
I'd never really seen the movie before and I kind of like guessed halfway through what was in the box. And I was obviously right, but like I didn't know anything beyond that. That was all I knew. I didn't know about Kevin Spacey being in the movie. I didn't know about their
hmm
performances together. I nothing. I just knew that it was a movie that had eluded me for a very long time.
hmm
And whenever I finally watched it, I really enjoyed it. And I'm glad that you said that you hadn't seen Seven. I got to go watch it in theaters
hmm
earlier this year because they did that whole re-release, which, by the way, was fantastic to watch in theaters again.
hmm
But then, of course, watching it recently within the past week, mostly the
hmm
director's cut or the director's commentary, rather, was a lot of fun to revisit it again. What were your first impressions right off the bat of
well,
this movie? Like, first thoughts as soon as the credits roll, what was your first thought?
first impressions, I was just like, this is totally a movie that was made in the '90s, like the grungy kind of just look to it, and also I could totally tell that this was a David Fincher movie. David Fincher is probably one of my favorite filmmakers, even though I haven't seen pretty much most of his filmography. But I've always really appreciated him starting out in music videos and then making that progression to feature films. And I feel like this movie specifically, especially from like the opening credits and the way this movie shot, it's got this neo noir like aesthetic to it. Like this feels like a music video director like making that leap to feature films. And a lot of people would say like that's like that could be a bad thing just because style over substance. I know that kind of gets thrown out a lot, especially on film Twitter. But I feel like what David Fincher does, not only in this movie, but also throughout his filmography, maybe not so much The Social Network. The Social Network is probably his most like film of his career, but he walks like that dangerous line of having the movie be style over substance or and actually having substance in it. And I think what he does really well in Seven is that he makes like the movie look really really great and like this and and emotional, but also gets like these incredible performances out of Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt. And I've gone on record that I don't really care for Brad Pitt all that much, especially like his later career.
Yeah,
Like
I get that.
I know a lot of people love Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but I
Yeah,
thought he was just okay in that.
yeah,
But he, especially watching Seven for the first time, I saw a lot of like unhinged behavior coming from Brad Pitt, and I'm maybe I'm out of pocket for saying this, but I saw a lot of Austin Butler in him. Like for current films coming out today, there was a lot of
that's fair.
Austin Butler in Brad Pitt,
Yeah,
especially the way he looks and the way he holds himself. And I'm not sure if you've seen Caught Stealing this year,
yeah,
but
yeah. I saw it in theaters. Yeah, yeah.
that's probably one of my favorite movies to come out this year,
Oh
and
yeah,
I
it's
saw a
great.
lot of similarities there.
You
But
know, it's funny that you say that because I didn't really draw that comparison. I guess now that you say it, it kind of makes sense
mhm,
that you say that. Yeah, that they do kind of mirror that same kind of like attitude and the way that they did
mhm,
things. And I would not be surprised if Austin Butler kind of took inspiration from Brad Pitt's character in Seven for his performance in Caught Stealing. It would kind of make
yeah,
sense,
yeah.
honestly. Huh?
And also it's like we constantly hear things like about history repeating itself, but I feel like that also works for like just an art too. Like
Yeah,
there's people that came up at like in the 90s, and now the people that are coming up now, they watch like Brad Pitt's performance and they're like, oh, I see myself a little bit like Brad Pitt, and I'm just gonna like take advantage of that and kind of like ride that wave a little bit. But uh, and at times it can be a bad thing just because you could be hitching your ride on something problematic, which
yeah,
is another character in this movie that was a jump scare. Another actor in this movie that was a jump scare when he came up on screen because
yep.
one, he's so young, and I'm like, damn.
But here's the thing: he's so good.
He,
Why does he have to be so fucking good? Like it's God, because Kevin Spacey is that guy that you hear his name and you're just like, ugh. But then you go and watch Seven and you're like, damn it, why has he got to be so good? Why do I have to give him his flowers? This sucks.
well, part of the reason why he's so good though is the fact that he's not on screen all that much.
Yeah,
And I think that's like another thing that I mentioned in my letterbox review for this movie is that Seven takes a lot of like tropes from like horror movies, some of my favorite horror movies where you don't show the antagonist or you don't show like the creature. Part of like the fear of what this person that can do using like seven deadly sins to kill all these people
yeah,
is that you just see the aftermath of it. And then like when you finally see him on screen, you're just like, this is who it's like this white bald dude. It's like I
yeah,
like he's not really all that intimidating, but based on what you've seen before, it like you could see like, oh damn, the like, but also like the here's like a theory that we could probably get into a little bit later is that or we could talk about it now too, is that I like that we kind of make assumptions
mhm,
like, oh, this is obviously the guy,
yeah,
but we don't. What David Fincher does really brilliantly is that he kind of like illustrates it that this could possibly be the guy,
But we don't
but
know.
the way that it's just like I don't know, there's questions up in the air
I
for sure.
I think I know where you're going with this,
Mhm,
because like, you don't know
mhm,
for sure, right? You don't know if it's just him or if it's someone else, if he's acting with someone else or if he's doing it all alone. Because
mhm,
you look at a lot of the things that he was doing, like the acts that he was doing
mhm.
and the ways that he was killing these people, and then you look at Kevin Spacey, his size, his character's size, and now that I think about it, I'm like, "There's no way that
Mhm.
he did all that shit alone."
Yeah.
'Cause he
There's
is
no
so tiny, there's no way that he could've done something to even outmuscle the first guy in Gluttony, who
mhm,
was a much bigger guy than he was, who
right.
could have easily just tossed him around like a rag doll.
But he he could have orchestrated it.
He
Like, I
could've.
see what you're saying.
He could have
Yeah,
orchestrated it easily,
mhm,
but had someone else with him as, like, the muscle to then do all
mhm.
these things. Mm.
But also, like, I'm thinking of, like, more orchestrating it by using what made these people, like, a
Mm.
glutton or
Yeah,
made them
use it
lustful.
against them.
Like, you see that for sure, like, in the lustful death,
See, yeah,
where
that's
probably the most brutal the sequence in the entire
and I'm so glad you don't actually see it, but, like,
yeah,
even, like, the conversation of it and the
the
description of
picture.
what was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even him just having to recount it
Mhm,
to the detectives when he's sitting there in the room, it's just
mhm,
like, I am so glad they didn't actually show this, because if they did, I don't think I'd ever be able to finish the rest of the movie because it just sounds deranged as all hell. It
mhm,
sounds like something out of a damn Saw movie. It's insane. Like, who
mhm.
even thought up that that is something that they would do for one of
Mhm.
the deaths? Like, that's insane.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane, but that's like it's 7 deadly sin. Like these are
Yeah.
like this is stuff that's like eating away at people. Like they'll do anything whether it's hurting them or not.
Yeah.
And that's what okay. Should we just get into like the whole what's in the
Yeah,
box?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying
Yeah,
to
yeah. No, 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 you're
lead
good.
the discussion,
You're good.
but because I have a theory, and maybe you can help me walk through this.
Yeah.
And because I I only looked at like kind of like the opinions on this movie like just for a little bit,
Mhm.
but it seems like the general consensus with people, and I'm not sure about with you, is that shoot, what Brad Pitt's character's wife's head is in the
Yeah.
box. Like that's
That's
like the
very
general
yeah.
consensus.
Yeah.
But based on like what we are just talking about on how John Doe uh couldn't have killed like any of those people, but he was an orchestrator.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't think Brad Pitt's character's like his wife's head was in the box. I think it was there was like some sort of like trigger for Morgan Freeman's character to to e- egg on egg on a Brad Pitt's character to because John Doe is the orchestrator
Mhm.
throughout this entire movie. He's the
Mhm.
one that you see what I'm saying? It's like
Mhm.
it's um I think whatever what I love most is that you don't see what's in the box.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's kind of it's open for
Yeah.
interpretation. But I think especially having Morgan Freeman's character being a very apathetic character, it would make sense for him to because he doesn't really have any connection to Brad Pitt's character.
No.
It's
In fact, he's rather just, like, kinda like, "Meh," because
yeah,
he's, like he's literally on the last week of him being a detective at all. Like, he's
mhm,
trying it's his last week of work, and it just ends up being the worst case possible
yeah,
for him to retire on, for anyone
mhm,
to retire on, let alone someone in his age range at the time
mhm,
of him being a cop. Yeah, he was kind of like this he Mills, Brad Pitt's character Mills comes in, he's like this young gun who's like, "I know what I'm doing," that kind of attitude of like, "I can do whatever the hell I want," kinda deal. And obviously Morgan Freeman, Somerset, he doesn't like all that shit. He's just like, I got to get through this week, and that's about it.
mhm,
And so, like, yeah, it's just I don't think he really cares about Mills all that much.
Mhm.
He obviously, cared about Mills a little bit more once Gwyneth Paltrow's character told him that she was pregnant.
Mhm.
And that was kind of the one time when he was like, "Oh, okay, maybe I should, look out for this kid a little bit more." And they even touched on that a little bit in the director's commentary, at least Morgan Freeman did. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he. It's an interesting like thing that you're talking about with him, like just kind of egging something on, which I can get that.
Mhm.
But then again, the only thing that would like kind of deter me away from that thought is the fact that he knows now that Mills is gone. He can't retire now.
Mhm.
And so he has to go back to like that last day, that Sunday of
Mhm.
them dealing with John Doe. He has to go back to work on Monday, even though he was supposed to be retired on Monday.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point,
Because he
but
he had to go back to work on Monday. So and because he was so close to being retired and being done with everything,
mhm.
s- someone like Somerset, I don't see him like doing something to sabotage that.
Mhm.
Because he's like, I just want my peace at this point. Because he's trying to get this thing done before Sunday. You could tell like by Friday, he's like, I'm fucking done with this. I don't want to
Mhm.
do this anymore. So he's like trying to get it done before we even get to the end of that week. So I don't see I can see where you're coming from with that. And I
Mhm.
think originally what they wanted to do, and this is something that David Fincher touched on a little bit, was that they wanted to put his dog's head
Mhm.
in the box instead of his wife's head, because I
Mhm.
think they were gonna leave her alive, but then they were like, no, like, let's" during the writing process, they were like, "No, like, this doesn't seem like it fits everything else."
Mhm.
The wife's head being in the box is what fits everything else. So and they did say at the end of the movie that there were 2 more deaths that had to be committed, or murders that had to be committed for it to be considered John Doe's magnum opus. That
Mhm.
being his wife dog's death wouldn't do it, his wife's death, and then obviously his death at the end of the movie whenever Mills shoots him.
Mhm.
I don't know if I see Somerset being a part of it.
I think you could only see Somerset being a part of it if we see some sort of connection that he has outside, because you don't really see
Yeah,
any
you don't.
connection.
No.
It's I don't. It's just uh, the fact that we don't see anything. We don't see what's in the box. I think that's like it's probably the most fascinating thing about this entire movie is
Oh,
because
yeah.
there's so much discussion that can come from that, and I don't. I still like the whole thing of John Doe just using someone like a Somerset just because he knows that. Like I agree with you that Somerset is like one day from retirement and but like being an apathetic person, it's like I said, it's very easy for him to kind of like fall into traps because he can't draw any connection from that. And because he sees something so analytical. So what I'm trying to say is that there's like what he sees is what was like some sort of message that like I don't know, maybe like I don't know. I'm still kind of working it out
Yeah,
because obviously I still think that it was his wife's head in the box, but
yeah.
it's yeah, I don't know.
This Seven is one of those movies that you'll definitely be picking up new little nuances
Mhm.
as you do multiple watches.
Mhm.
Because like there are things that I picked up whenever I watched it in the theater, a couple months ago that I was like, oh shit, I didn't notice that before. So like it's one of those movies that like you'll have to, because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Like there is just so much packed into this movie, and it's only what, like 2 hours,
Yeah,
something like
it's like
that.
just under 2 hours. Like
Yeah. So
uh,
like there's so much going on in
mhm.
that 2 hours that sometimes you're gonna miss something. Especially
Yeah.
on a first watch, you're definitely gonna miss something. You're obviously
Mhm.
gonna get, like, the whole overarching part of it, but there's gonna be little bits and pieces that you may not see the first time around.
Mhm. And
What
that's
it
the beauty of film, to
Yeah.
be honest,
Yeah,
in my opinion.
there's
And
so many different things like that.
that that's what makes like good movies like worth watching again just because and we I don't want to get us on a tangent about new movies that come out today. Is that I don't really feel the need to rewatch really any new movies. Like
Yeah.
when I watch something like Seven, like exactly what you said. It's like I want to own the 4K because I watched I got the DVD version for like $4
Oh,
at
nice.
Goodwill,
Nice.
which was unsealed, by the way, unsealed, which is
Oh, yeah, you did say that. That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Uh, I mean sealed, by the way. I
Yeah, yeah.
misspoke. But it's absolutely crazy that I found it at Goodwill like that. So that means that there's someone else there like me that didn't see Seven. They just bought like the
Yeah.
DVD and donated it to Goodwill, which is funny.
So
But
wild.
it's like I can like get the 4K, rewatch it on streaming, and still pick up stuff that actually that I didn't pick up like the first time, and I don't get that with new movies today.
No.
There are some exceptions, like maybe One Battle After Another,
Oh, yeah.
or which I've
Sinners.
only seen once, by the way, and Sinners. But
Yeah.
most new movies, I don't get that experience at all.
I
So,
think I think nowadays, and I was hearing, I can't remember who said this, but there was like a small like short or whatever that I saw that people are like, you can't really, you know, write stuff to where it's not beating them over the head,
mhm,
like newer audiences over the head. They have to have everything spelled out for them nowadays, which is so annoying because it doesn't give that sort of rewatchability that you can get on older
mhm,
movies where you can watch something a million times and still pick up new things.
mhm,
Nowadays it's so simplified for the modern audience who just can't keep their eyes off of their phone while they're in a movie theater or can't keep themselves locked onto one thing that is like
mhm.
there's really no rewatchability in a lot of these movies nowadays.
Yeah, and I promise we'll get off this, but
No, you're good.
I honestly blame Netflix for this,
Yeah.
just because, especially like the way, and I feel like Netflix is like the easy target to blame
Well,
here,
because 'cause they're the
but
ones that kinda started this whole streamification of everything,
yeah, like,
and
oh, you got to write a movie so people who are folding laundry can understand.
yep.
And this is like my Vikash is going to hate this part of the podcast,
Okay.
but this is my whole problem with Frankenstein, just because
Really.
that movie, you can feel like the Netflixification of
Yeah.
like behind that movie, and I know it's Del Toro, and Del Toro is known for like actual artful films like Seven, like like kind of like falling into that rewatchability where you're every single time you watch a Del Toro film or a Fincher film, you see something more. But I
Yeah.
feel like he kind of caved to Netflix at this point because they're going to give him like $200 million to make a Frankenstein movie. But I don't know. That's my hot take, I guess.
Did you watch it on Netflix, or did you watch it on or did you get the chance to actually go see it in theaters like some
I
of the
saw it
lucky
in,
few?
I saw it in theaters, 35
Really?
millimeter.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even with a theater watch, you felt kinda that way?
Yeah,
Really?
it's
'Cause
such
I
a
watched it
weird
on Netflix
feeling.
and it was, you know,
Mhm,
I wanted to watch it in theaters, obviously, I didn't get that chance.
mhm,
But I watched it on Netflix the other night, and, like, I can see where you're getting that if you were to only watch it on Netflix, but I felt
mhm,
like if I had seen it in theaters, I'd have a different or, like, an IMAX release, I'd have a different feeling of the movie, mostly because I guess the setting, the size of the screen, the
mhm.
atmosphere, that kinda thing, it would feel a little bit different, but I can understand, like, if you're only watching it for the first time on
Yeah.
Netflix, how you can kind of come to that feeling about Frankenstein.
Well, I we'll get off this,
Yeah, yeah.
but, I think I just had that feeling because it wasn't shot on 35 millimeter, it
Mm,
was just presented in 35 millimeter, so it
sure.
has, like, this kind of fake look to it. You still have that digital look, but it's, like, through a 35 millimeter, like a
Lens.
presentation
Yeah.
lens. So it's a I don't know. It's I need to watch it again, but and see if I feel differently. But that's just how I feel, and
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way about Sevens because there's so much to like about this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Whether you like just the substance, like in movies, like the way like a movie looks. Like I love, like I said, I love the neo noir like aesthetic. It's It feels perfect that this is your first episode,
Yeah, yeah.
and we're talking about Seven in November,
Yeah,
no Noirvember, so it's
yeah.
like it's yeah,
I didn't even
yeah.
think about that. That didn't even really make the connection, but I'm glad you
Mhm.
actually made that connection. How did you feel about the cinematography in this movie?
Oh, I thought it was I thought it was wonderful. I love
Yeah,
like the tracking shots and the dolly shots, just the way like it tracks like these actors and then focuses in on like where they're at, especially like when they're walking up to like a crime scene. It's David Fincher, like he will always like know how to like a master a tracking shot or a dolly shot, but
yeah.
I think he does. You really see like his craft like on full display here, and even like we didn't talk about this yet, but the chase
I
sequence.
was literally about to say that. Okay. All right. So the chase sequence is perfect.
Mhm.
I think perfect is really the only way to describe it because it is so well done. And not only just like being able to keep up with everyone in this
Mhm.
wild environment that they're in, everything is so close quarters, everything is so compact that it is very hard to do something like that.
Yeah,
But they also managed to do it without showing the face of John Doe,
yeah,
like ever.
mhm, yeah,
Like you still an hour and some change into this movie don't know what this guy looks like. They are practically right on top of John Doe and they still don't know what this guy looks like.
mhm,
And neither does the audience.
yeah.
And that's
And
based on how they were able to do that.
you use it like shooting like that sequence and lighting lighting the
Perfect.
sets that they're on to the absolutely perfect. And I know like I keep on mentioning how Morgan Freeman's character was sorry if I'm forgetting his name, so
Somerset?
that's what I'm just yeah, Somerset. He was a very apathetic character that doesn't necessarily care for Mills all that much,
Yeah.
but during that chase sequence when that starts, I feel like that's when the apathy starts to break down
Yeah.
because like he sees like this young hotshot rookie that like this is why I like Mills so much because usually when you see characters like this, like the young hotshot rookie, they're usually kind of like inexperienced, and you're like, oh man, this guy's gonna fail.
Yeah.
Like Mills is competent.
Mhm.
Like he's just new. He's just new on the job. He can do everything that Somerset can do, but it but like I said, he's just inexperienced. So like when he chases after or John Doe or that we suspect is John Doe because we don't see his face, it's you see like that apathy like break down because you see kind of like himself. Somerset kind of sees himself like in Mills, and I feel like that's where he drew that connection, and he was like, "Oh man, this kid, he's gonna get himself killed," and he starts chasing after him.
Yeah.
Just, but I don't know. That chase sequence like you said, it's perfect,
It
absolutely perfect.
I I know they said how many times they did it. I think they said like 14 times or something like that. They had to do it
Mhm,
several times to get it right.
mhm,
But the fact that they were able to even pull that off in the first place because
yeah,
everything is so close quarters.
mhm,
That's got to be so difficult to do. And then do it in a way that you don't see his face, you don't see everything. You still keep the mystique of everything. You
mhm.
don't know what's going to happen. It I don't know how they did it, but I guess that's kind of what the whole movie magic thing
Well,
is.
I I saw some behind the scenes on this movie before we started recording.
Yeah.
Brad Pitt apparently like broke his arm
Yeah. He
during that scene,
yeah.
and which is funny because you shoot movies out of sequence
Yeah.
like pretty much all the time. So you can see like his arm in a
Yep.
cast like earlier in the movie, and
They
the
were
way they
talking
tried to
about that.
hide it.
Yeah, they were talking
It's
about that in the director's commentary. They were like, "We had to, like, find a way to hide his cast." Like, we had to, like, basically just act like it wasn't there and
yeah,
kinda get him to wear, like, really long sleeve
yeah,
suit jackets or whatever just to try to hide it as much as he can and, like, twist his arm in a way that the
or
cast
have his
can be
hand in
seen.
his pocket. Have his
Yeah.
hand in his
Yeah.
pocket. I was like, why is his hand in his pocket during the scene? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
It makes sense now that you've got a little bit of the backstory on it, but, like,
yeah,
while you're watching, you're like, "Oh, this is weird."
yeah.
But yeah, that was yeah, I don't know, man. That chase sequence is something else and just so well done. And that the
Mhm.
whole, like, what was that shot where John Doe had the gun to Mill's head, and you can look up, like, at a diagonal angle at
Yeah.
John Doe, you still don't see his face, and it's just like,
Mhm.
"Damn."
Such a I love shots like that because that's just a I need to come up with I know that there's a specific term for
Yeah.
that type of shot, but I wanna can I curse on this
I've been doing it
podcast?
all day, go for it.
Oh, okay. I wanna just say the like, that's the motherfucker shot.
Yeah.
Like, just because, like, whenever shots like that happen, where it's, like, this close-up shot, but you also kind of it's not a split diopter because I don't think
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
because it was out of focus, but it's I don't know. It's just, like, m you can see, like, the dimensions there. It's just whenever I see shots like that, I'm just like, "Motherfucker." You know what you're
Damn.
doing, you know? Yeah.
It's like, "How
You
dare
know
you?"
what you're doing.
Like,
Yeah.
it's so good, and I was
Yeah.
just has I don't know, the first time I watched that, I was like, "Oh, wow." I was like,
Mhm.
"Huh, okay," and I'd expected to see his face at that point, and I
Mhm.
didn't, and I was like, "Oh." Like, I
Mhm.
wonder like, my first thought whenever I first watched that was like, "How did they pull that?" Like, how did they do that without showing his face? Now, granted, I understand that, like, they did it in post-production and stuff like that, but, like, at the time when I didn't know as much about movies as I do now,
Mhm.
it was kind of like one of those things like, "How the hell did you do that?" But it was like it was that's a testament to how well done this movie is. Like,
Mhm.
you can watch multiple things and go like, how did they do that?" And not to mention, since we haven't mentioned it yet, the prosthetics and everything that is done for a lot of these deaths,
Mhm.
the way that you see a lot of these people in these, like, mangled, remains in the way that John Doe has killed all these people, like, whenever they go into I can't remember what death it was, but that guy was tied to the bed.
Oh, was it Pride?
Yeah,
I think it was Pride.
I think so, something like that. But, like, they were tied to the bed, and they had all of those, like, car freshener things
Yeah.
hanging from the ceiling, and then you look at the body, and it's just, like, the one of the best, like, special effects
Mhm.
that I've seen, like, makeup deals that I've seen in a long time, and I'm like, "Whoa, 1995 they did that?"
Yeah.
It looks like straight out of The Walking Dead.
It's straight up, and also, like, th this kinda goes back into our conversation that we're having earlier, like, I don't think John Doe could really orchestrate really any of this because this is
Yeah,
really elaborate.
yeah,
Like
like and not only that, he'd been doing it for because they said he had been there for at least a year.
Mhm.
So the question then becomes, how long had he been doing this? Because it had only been going on for a week that they had actually been
Mhm.
investigating this spree of murders.
Mhm.
So when did he start? When did he have the idea? Because like that was never really, not from what I remember, not really touched on. It was never really touched on in his monologue at the
Yeah,
end of the
yeah.
movie.
It wasn't touched on, but I think I just kinda see that as, like, as someone that wouldn't kill anyone,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
if I did have the opportunity, I'm not going to, like, go into someone's room and be like, "Oh, let me hang some air fresheners. Oh, let's just set it up." It's like, let's make it all it's kind of me picking apart the movie, but
yeah.
you know what I
Well,
mean?
my
It's
guess
like
is that was done after the fact, like, after he started, and, like, as time went on, he just added more to ensure that people outside of the room wouldn't smell it,
yeah,
but maybe that's
okay.
just me. I don't know if that's, like if that is kind of the thought process, but,
Mhm,
like, if you were to do something like that, I guess you would do it throughout time. Because, like I said, they did say that he was there for at least a year,
mhm.
and then apparently, I guess, died in the hospital a few days after he got there or something like that. But the question then becomes, like, how long did this was this a plan? Because he had obviously thought about this for a long period of time if you're gonna be
Mhm.
carrying out at least 1 kill for a year plus.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It's absolutely wild, and, like, a truly sick individual would only, like, come up with, like, a plan like that.
Yeah,
Like, even, like, the gluttonous death, which I think the guy just probably did it to himself, but
yeah,
John Doe probably like, it's probably another situation where John Doe was egging him on
yeah,
because this is a man that like, he even says it in his monologue towards the end, it's like, this is a man that didn't care about what he put in his body. He just wanted to consume, consume, consume. And I think it's kind of like those wives a little bit that kill like their husband with kindness
Yeah.
by feeding them a ton of red meat, ton of like meals with salt and sugar and fat. And it's just like if you're just gonna indulge, I'm just gonna and help you indulge for you until your imminent demise. But
Yeah.
yeah.
It dude, there's so many like crazy things about the kills, the way that they were going about, like
Mhm.
everything about this movie is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you'll notice on the first time around, and may even take a couple days for you to realize. Because it took me
Mhm.
a couple days after the first time I watched it for me to be like, "Oh, like, I'm putting this together, I'm putting this together, I'm putting that together," and it is kinda, which is why I ask people to watch whatever
Mhm.
movie we're gonna watch, like, a few days prior, just so
Yeah.
they can give themselves time. But
Mhm.
this is definitely one of those movies that you have to sit and think about for a couple days. What who did you think had the best performance in this movie? I feel like I already know what you're gonna say, but who do you think had the best performance in this movie?
I think I would have to. I don't know. It's a toss up for me
Yeah.
because as a non Brad Pitt fan, but able to see like this movie for the first time and see like what he did like in the early '90s. Which, by the way, I've not seen Fight Club, so that's another young Brad Pitt movie. I think he
We can
does
put it on
a
the list.
really he does a really good job in this movie. But I feel like Morgan Freeman really holds this movie together, of
Yeah.
course, just because much like every movie that he's in. So that's not really a hot take, like a hot take answer.
Yeah.
And if you follow me on social media, like you know that I'm all about hot takes. But I think Morgan Freeman, like he is kind of like the staple that kind of that one of the staples that holds this movie together because like like you said, retirement is the one thing that is kind of pushing him through. Like he's got to finish this case, got to like solve this so he can like live out the rest of his life like however he wants.
Yeah.
And like you said, like he doesn't get that because of the events that happened at the end of this movie. Which it's wild that this movie it's one of the only movies that I can think of where the bad guy wins.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's insane to me.
And
So
and by the way, they do such a good job of not, like, spelling that out for you, but allow
mhm,
you to infer that that's what happens.
mhm, yeah.
And that's another thing, about good writing that we were talking about
Mhm.
earlier, like, they don't have to smack you over the head and be like, "See, he can't retire." Like, they just kind
Yeah,
of just, like, put it out there and let the audience kind of figure out, "Oh, okay. Like, he's obviously screwed." Like, he
yeah,
can't go and retire like he wanted to a week ago,
yeah,
and that
and
just sucks.
that before we start recording, that's why I said, like, this movie is just very dark.
Yeah.
Just to watch to watch, especially now, not to get political,
Yeah.
but, like, you see all the stuff that's happening now where people are doing horrific things, and the message at the end of this movie is basically, "Oh, yeah, everything that you're trying, just like"
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's like,
It didn't matter.
it didn't doesn't matter
Sorry.
whatsoever. Yeah,
We got what we wanted in the end.
right. Which it not really the upper movie that I want, but you know what I mean. I'm
I
glad I watched
I
it though, so
I should have been like, "Okay, just make sure you're, like, in a decent headspace before you watch this movie."
yeah.
It's like, if you're kind of on the down low, it's probably not the best movie to watch while you're kinda like, "Ugh." But, like, if
But
you're in a decent mood, I mean, it's gonna bring it down a little bit, but,
but but in a way, like, I feel like it is kind of like a good movie to watch, like, when you're in a down mood, just
yeah.
because, one, it's competently made, and also we didn't talk about this scene yet, but this kinda, like, goes into, like, why I think Morgan Freeman is a standout here, is that conversation that he has with Mills in the diner.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I don't remember specifically exactly what he says, but I feel like that's another moment where the walls Morgan Freeman has are coming down,
Yeah.
and the walls for both of them are coming down, and they're kind of like accepting like who they are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Just because. before that, Mills doesn't really have really anyone. He doesn't like he really just has like his wife, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. By the way, she's great. By the way,
Yeah.
but he really just has her, and I feel like that's kind of that honestly leads to his downfall at that point, because it's like when he finds that it's his wife's head in the box, like it shows like the power of not having community.
Yeah.
Like like the only community that he has is one person, and he basically just breaks down. Which I know I'm kind of all over the place, but like when Mills actually shoots John Doe, I love like that moment where his wife flashes before his eyes,
Yeah.
like they use like the editing trick where it just shows like a flash of his wife, and that's where he immediately breaks and
Yeah.
just like he just says fuck it at that
Yeah.
point.
'Cause
It's just like, yeah.
he doesn't have to say that his life is over at that point, but
Hmm.
you can see it in his eyes.
Hmm.
You could see it to where he's like, "My life's already fucking over.
Yeah.
Everything that I loved and cared about is already gone.
Hmm.
So what does it matter at this point? He has already won. Even
Yeah.
if I don't shoot him, he has already won." So he's
Yeah.
like, "Fuck it. I'm just gonna, get my, get back and and get this guy."
And
And yeah, it's just great writing, great acting. That's pretty much all it is.
and I feel like if we had more scenes with Somerset and Mills, like I mentioned, like of them talking in that diner, you wouldn't get a situation like that. And
Yeah, probably.
like that's what going back on what you said, like that's good writing. Like you hear so much criticism now, like towards movies where they're like, oh, if they just added this scene, or if this character just did that, and I feel like that's the fans or the people that watch the movie like correcting what the movie didn't do.
Yeah.
This in this situation, it's more of like the restraint the filmmakers had to you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It allows you to
It's
fill in the blanks.
yeah, it
Yeah.
allows you to fill in the blanks, and I don't know. I just love it. You're kind of you're disappointed that that these two characters didn't have more connection there, because
Right.
it basically cost both of them their lives. Like
Yeah.
obviously they're still living, but they're both living very different lives at the end of this movie. So
And it's probably two different lives that they didn't expect to live.
mhm,
It's like where their lives have a branching point to where they're like, "Oh yeah, this is how it's gonna go for the next few days." And then the second that, they deal with John Doe in the flesh and deal with him in that field, it
mhm,
branches off into two totally different avenues that they didn't expect.
mhm,
And that's I don't know, there's just so many good things about this movie, and that's a great part about this movie is that like the unpredictability of their lives is due to this one guy.
mhm.
And that's so cool.
Yeah, like
And
he's
the
just the downfall of
the
like
complete downfall of both of their lives.
yeah, and like it's not just Mills not like kind of not drawing connection to Somerset. It's the other people around him too. I like when Mills is in his office, like early on in the movie, and he's just sitting behind his desk, and everyone kind of gets up and leaves.
Yeah,
They're like, "Oh, this guy's so insufferable. Like he
yeah,
thinks he's like hot shit," and like I feel like that's another thing. Like forming community of not necessarily like-minded individuals or people that aren't like you, like that those are the people that will pull you out of like the darkest parts in your life.
yeah.
And like Mills didn't have that, and and that's what leads us to the end of the movie. So
And and to be fair to Mills, I think if I remember correctly, he'd only been there like he had just gotten there
mhm,
to
yeah.
Boston, let alone or wherever they're shooting at. What I'm assuming is Boston. I don't think they really like, fully state that this is where it's at. But
Mhm,
like he had only just gotten there.
yeah.
By the time that his wife is dead, he has only been there a week.
Yeah. Mhm,
He doesn't really get that chance to get that community because he hasn't been there long enough to get that. Now, granted, he kind of shot himself in the foot by acting the way that he was and being the way that he was. But
Mhm.
like he's only there for a week, and then this entire thing is what happens on his first week of the job at this new place he's never worked out before with this new guy he's never met before.
Mhm.
And then eventually his wife is gone.
Yeah.
And subsequently his kid.
Insane, like, first week on the job, and then for Somerset, the last week on the job, which
Yeah.
you mentioned, like, Somerset hasn't dealt with anything like this in his career. Like, watching this, I feel like he has,
Yeah.
but that's allowed him to be kind of like the apathetic person that he
Yeah.
is that he's able to kinda disconnect because he's seen horrible shit before, and it's like and that like that's another thing of like that's like probably part of the PTSD that he's experienced, and that's what made him an apathetic person. But
Yeah.
yeah, uh, insane first week and insane last week for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah. Is there anyone in this movie that you felt had like the weakest performance? A weak performance at all? Or do
I
you think it was pretty
well,
well rounded?
I thought it was pretty well rounded. I would kind of like to see more of Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
Just of their relationship, because
Yeah.
you really just it's kind of like the common stuff where it's like, oh, they're in a relationship, they're in love. Let's just get shots of them in bed and
Yeah.
live and being happy.
Yeah.
I wish we had more of that stuff, but I realized that that's not what this movie was trying to do and
Mhm.
trying to be. So I understand why you don't really see that much of her, but yeah, I don't know. I if it I wouldn't say she's weak. It's just like it, we needed more of her on screen, just because Gwyneth Paltrow is
Is Gwyneth Paltrow.
she's yeah,
Yeah.
exactly,
Like,
mother.
yeah, I think you only get, like, maybe 5 minutes of screen time with her.
Mhm,
And the best performance you get out of her, at least within that 5 minutes, is her talking to Somerset about her not letting Mills know that she was pregnant.
mhm,
And that was also, talking about how the walls were coming down. That was kind of where the crack started in those walls between Somerset and Mills, of him just
mhm.
kind of breaking down a little bit, was that scene where they were meeting in the diner. Is there any, like you had already said that Summer, or like Morgan Freeman's character obviously stood out to you the most. Was there anyone that you felt like didn't have the best chemistry with each other at all?
Not really, but I because I feel like I think everyone kind of really worked well together,
Yeah.
like here, and I feel like the fact that Mills and Somerset didn't work very well together at the start, like that's kind of like that adds to their chemistry, and it makes me wonder like how like Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt like even like approached each other on set, because I love like those situations like when an actor or a character is supposed to not care for another character in a movie, like those actors are kind of like cold to each other. I always love like those behind the scenes like nuggets, like when I think I'm trying to think of like a situation where that actually did happen. Or like
Mm.
Superbad when Jonah Hill was kind of mean to Christopher Mintz-Plasse because his character was supposed to be like he was not supposed to Fogel
McLovin.
in that
Yeah.
situation, and he was like cold to him on set. So I wondered like these Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are pretty established at this point, so I don't think that they need something like that in this situation. But I would be interested to see like how they handled themselves on set for sure.
Yeah. I know in the
Mhm.
commentary they were they were saying that they were all just kind of staring at Morgan Freeman in just awe, because like
Yeah.
he is Morgan Freeman. So I
Mhm.
I can imagine that they had, I wouldn't say like a close relationship, but like,
Mhm.
or at least, respectful of each other and like respected
Yeah.
each other's work and stuff like that. I would not be surprised if, they were at least, cordial with each other. Would there be anyone that you would actually want to change in this film as far as actors go?
Like
If you were
like
to,
recast.
yeah, like if you were to recast anyone in this movie, would you recast anyone? Do you feel that it's necessary to recast somebody?
I don't think it's necessary. These are always tough questions for me
Yeah.
because I never really liked recasting,
Yeah.
like just because there's like that's always like such a long process. Like when you're casting anyone like on a movie, and I feel like when you make like that announcement, especially like in today's era, like on Twitter, like that's set in stone.
Yep.
So I feel like that. I don't know. I think Morgan Freeman's great. Wouldn't like if I could recast Brad Pitt, I probably would to someone like what, at this time, 1995. What would you? I know this is kind of a weird answer, but Tom Cruise. Like,
How old was he at that
I
time? It was well, he's probably about the same age, wasn't he?
he's probably about the same age, and you
Yeah.
haven't really besides is it Taxi Driver
Yeah.
or no it's the Michael Mann film. Why am I drawing a blank?
It's not Thief.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Why am I
You know
drawing
what
a
I'm
blank?
talking about.
Yeah, I think I
Listeners
know
know.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Somebody does.
But like that's probably one of the darkest films that we've seen Tom Cruise in. And I
Yeah.
kind of wanted to have him take on like a performance like this and see what he would do.
Yeah.
But I think Brad Pitt's great, but I would like to see those two swapped just because those are really the two movie stars, at least today,
Mhm.
that are kind of controlling stuff. I would like to see like where their path goes, like if they kind of like swap performances. But
Hmm. How did you feel about David Fincher's direction of this movie? Like, directing
oh,
it?
I thought it was like I thought it was powerful, and it felt like he was in charge. Like
Yeah.
he like it's like I feel like that for most Fincher movies, but like I didn't mention this in my letterbox review, but I can definitely like feel the impact of like what this movie had on like on culture, and like all the references that I see now after on like oh the hardened cop, the rookie just coming into the force, and how that influenced everything. And I feel like that like that's great that's great direction because people are seeing how well that works. And I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. How do you feel about like, where do you think this stacks in Fincher's filmography? If you were
I
to
would
kind of put it anywhere.
okay. I usually don't like ranking
Yeah, yeah.
ranking like filmographies because I
Fair.
feel like every film is unique.
Yeah.
That's a very cliche response. Sorry,
No, you're good.
but I would say this is like top Fincher for
Yeah.
sure. I could see why people are like have this in their four faves
Yeah.
on Letterbox. I'm not sure if I'm ready to put this in my four favorites yet, just because I need to watch this movie like a few more times because I do have some issues
Yeah.
with this movie, but it's the issues are rather small. But I think
What are those
like on
issues?
I don't know. I thought this movie kind of slowed down a little bit, like a
The
little bit,
pacing?
like yeah, like towards like the second act. I was
Fair.
kind of maybe it's because I watched this kind of late at night, and
Okay.
that might have been like n- that probably was the reason why it kind
Yeah.
of like slowed down for me. But I I don't know. I think that there's some issues with the pacing for sure,
I do
but.
feel like 7 is a bit of a slow burn as far as,
Mhm.
like, all this build up to then get to what we get to. I think that's part of the, like, to me, that's part of the charm of that movie, I guess you could say,
Mhm.
is, like, it does take a while for us to get there, but whenever we do get there, it feels like it kinda pays off in the end. But, yeah, I can see, like, you know, if you've only seen it one time and this was the first time, I can see, like, and you don't know what to expect,
Mhm.
how that could be the pacing could be a little off. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could definitely
Yeah.
see that.
And that actually is traditional for like most like noir films to have like a very slow burn feel to it.
Yeah.
So I could see why it like it has like that slow burn like style, but it was a little off putting for me at times. Not saying it's like that's bad or anything like that, but it was just I was already kind of uncomfortable by like some of the stuff I was seeing, like
Yeah.
especially like from all the deaths. I was just like, I don't know. It's just like it kind of made me a little uneasy for sure.
And I'm kinda glad you said that because that actually
Yeah.
segues into, like, what kind of emotions did you feel after the movie, like, a few days after, like, thinking about the movie, like,
Uh,
what did it pull out of you? Like, what did you feel?
Dreadful,
Dreadful?
uneasy,
That's fair,
yeah,
that's fair.
and but also the like I mentioned, I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but a little hopeful
Yeah,
too, because I've always really loved movies where characters change, and by the end of this movie, for better or for worse, Somerset has changed. Like he kind of sees the world through a different lens at this point. Like yeah, he hasn't like he isn't retired, but I feel like at the beginning of this movie, Somerset kind of had he already had a view of what he thought of the world and what he thought of people. But by the end of this movie, he's like, I actually don't know who people are,
yeah,
and I think honestly that's a really beautiful sentiment to end the movie on, is because especially now more than ever with like social media, we feel like we know people like from a distance because we post so much online, and you it's and then like when we actually meet people or we have where we have conversations like this, it's like, oh, this person is different than I thought, like different in a good way. You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
like it's I see hope in that, because like there's hope in conversation. There's hope in seeing people for who they actually are. And yeah, I don't know. It's a like I may have felt some dread, but there's definitely some hope in there for sure. So
Is there a way that this movie made you feel that maybe made you change the way that you look at the world in some way? Even
that
slightly? Even something small?
the, there's scary people out there that
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
are willing to do really sick and twisted things, but also that like kind of like what what I just said. It's just about like even like people that are different, if they work together, they can still kind of like see the world like differently, like by talking it out.
Yeah,
And like I think that's kind of like the issues that this film actually comes to, is that these two characters, they didn't talk to each other. Like
yeah.
they barely talk to each other. And if they did, they would be able to uh see the world through their eyes, or see the world through a different lens. But yeah, if that answers your
Yeah,
question. So
yeah.
yeah.
Um, the film score in this movie doesn't, in my opinion, necessarily elevate the movie in a
Mhm,
large way like Howard Shore's stuff usually does. But
mhm.
how did you feel about the score? Did it fit well with the movie? Did the tone fit right? Did
I,
everything sound good to you? Did you like the
I,
score?
I I've always believed Howard Shore is a very underrated composer.
100%.
I've because I think especially now more than ever, everyone gravitates to like John Williams or Hans Zimmer, or even the guy that did well, Frankenstein. What's his name?
Uh,
Alexander Desplat.
oh,
Everyone, yeah,
I
I just pulled that out of thin
I
air. I'm
I
sorry. Yeah, but everyone gravitates to those names that we're familiar with. But Howard Shore, I feel like I've always liked like the tone that he comes across like with his movies. Like even like movies like The Hobbit.
yeah,
Like The Hobbit are not great movies. I'll just say that
no,
out
it's not
loud.
fantastic.
But Howard Shore really elevates it with that score, and I think he does that really well here. Like he understands like the gritty nature of this gritty, dark, and dreadful of that this movie has, and he adds that to with the score in a really unique way for sure.
Yeah. I don't think it's one of those scores that I would, like, necessarily listen to, like, if I was, going for a walk or, like, had, like, the vinyl for it or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's one of those that, like, it blends so well with the movie
Hmm.
that you don't even really think of it outside of the movie. Now, granted, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it just fits well. I don't really know how to explain it other than it feels like a puzzle piece that fits well into the ensemble of the movie entirely.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, and I don't I think it's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
Like, when like, I'll agree with you, although I don't really listen to very many film scores or when I go on a walk all
yeah,
that much.
yeah,
I know that's, like, a very common thing for people to do, but I think that's like, when something like, especially when we're talking about a movie and when something, like, blends into the movie and you don't necessarily notice it,
yeah,
I think that's part of the movie magic.
yeah,
That's why, like, a movie is successful. If you can't tell, like, when something is a cut or not, or when, like, a music motif, like, pops in, like, that's the sign of, like, good direction and good filmmaking because, like, that's their goal. Like, when we're watching a movie, we're not supposed to, like, notice, like, any of that stuff, and, that's why I love movies so much
yeah,
because if when I get that feeling, I'm just like, "Okay, okay, this director's cooking." Like, David Fincher's cooking for sure, but
yeah.
yeah.
I do find it crazy that, we can go this entire movie oh, excuse me, and you can think about the music and stuff, but you can't really like there's so many other soundtracks out there and scores that you can say the name of the movie, like Star Wars, like Superman, like whatever, and you can
Mhm.
hear it in your head. If I were to say to you, "Oh yeah, the music in Seven is great," you're gonna sit there and go, "The what?"
Right,
Like I can't hear it in my head. Like
right.
I love film scores. I listen to film scores all the time. It helps me stay calm. I can't tell you what the music sounds
Mhm.
like at all. Like I wouldn't be able to pick it out unless I'm watching the movie.
But like I said, I think that's part of the magic
Yeah.
of it
See,
because
that's what I like about it.
the reason why, like, I don't listen to film scores is because I kinda like this might seem make me a little bit crazy, but, like, when I go on a walk, like, I usually raw dog, like, my walk. Like,
That's crazy.
I think that's what a lot of people
That's
uh,
insane.
yeah, it is kinda insane, but, like, we all kinda have, like, our own score going through our head, and I feel like that's what this movie is trying to, like, get across,
Yeah.
where it's like we have like this kind of like Howard Shore score going like amongst uh kind of like gravitating like amongst us and kind of like and just I don't know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
like it's kind of like it's blending it's grounding the movie. The music is grounding like these characters
Yeah, and it
and
doesn't stand out in a way that like overshadows the movie itself.
mhm,
Like it
yeah.
it is it is cohesively part of the movie,
Mhm,
which you don't get a lot of film scores.
mhm,
Like there's not very many movies that I can think of that do that in the same way that Howard Shore did with Seven.
yeah.
Because most
It,
movies you can at least ones that you've seen multiple times, you can pick out the film score easy. Like you can listen to a few notes of it and be like, "Oh yeah, that's that." Like, you know. But
yeah.
if you were to throw on the Seven soundtrack, I don't know. Shit, I'm not gonna know.
Now I kind of want to like go on a walk and like actually throw in the Seven soundtrack
Just to see.
just
Yeah.
to because one of my favorite things to do, like when I do listen to film scores, especially from movies that I love,
Yeah.
is that I um I love like listening to the score and then picturing that scene in my head.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you were to do that, like when we're done recording,
Mhm.
I feel like we would be able to picture this, like what is actually going on in the scenes,
Yeah,
and I
maybe.
yeah, but I think it's effective.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
to put it bluntly, I think that his score is very effective. So
Yeah, but then again, that's Howard Shore. What else would you expect from, right?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
what do you think of the, overall production value of this film?
Top notch.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think this is common in procedurals, especially like dark procedurals like this. But like I like that the throughout most of this movie, like rain is a common like part of production.
Mhm.
Like it's some I watched like one of these YouTube essays on on this movie, people are like way smarter than me, but the fact that like rain plays a pretty big role in this, it's like like the weight of like life kind of like pouring down on like these two characters, Mills and
Oh yeah.
Somerset. I think uh, it's an incredible like theme that kind of like goes throughout this movie, and also being like done doing some like a little bit of production work throughout my life.
Yeah.
Whenever there's rain like on set, it's always very complicated. So
Oh
I
yeah.
like seeing the fact that they had rain in most of like their shots in like this movie. I can't even imagine what it was like to like schedule or get like people on set to, hey, you're gonna get wet for like the for this scene. It's
Yeah,
insane.
I think they said something about them having rain towers for, like, the majority of the days that they
Hmm.
were shooting this movie, and it was just, like, a pain in the ass for everybody involved, and I'm like, "Yeah, that makes sense because like, being wet all day has
Yeah,
gotta suck." Like,
yeah,
even when you're inside, like, you get rained on outside, and you have to maintain that inside to make it
yeah,
look like you just came from outside, like, that's gotta suck, like,
yeah.
for hours
Exactly.
on end. That's not gonna
It's
be
it
fun.
it's rain and snow,
Yeah.
the worst possible situation for any filmmaker.
Yeah, I
So
can definitely imagine so.
yeah.
Um, was there anything that you didn't necessarily like about this at all? Like about 7?
Um. Yeah. I'm trying. I don't know. Well, the fact that this movie is so dark, I
Yeah,
think that's like that. But like I said, I feel like that adds to it because
yeah,
that's the feeling that this movie was trying to go for. So I'm not sure if I would not like it. It's yeah. I don't know. I think this movie is interesting. The way it kind of like makes the audience like not want to continue to watch, but you want to find out like who John Doe is and stuff like that. So it's like it's almost like the filmmakers itself like, hey, you don't want to see any more of this, but do you? And it's just like it's like the filmmakers egging on the audience.
yeah.
I love it so much, but I'm not sure if that answers your
No, yeah,
question,
yeah.
but yeah, I don't know.
Would you have preferred to possibly see this in a theater for the first time or
Uh, well, I'm a big theater guy,
Yeah,
so uh, watching this at home, but I think wasn't necessarily the ideal experience. But I like that I watched this movie on DVD and not Blu-ray
yeah,
because I think that kind of like adds to like how I probably would have watched this like growing up.
yeah.
And
I
and
Go ahead.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say I did see like, the first time I watched it was also on DVD.
Hmm.
Recently, I watched it on the 4K because I bought the 4K not too long ago. But, like, I feel like, you know, first time watching it on DVD, if you're not gonna go and watch it in a theater, is
Hmm.
kind of the better way to watch it because it was the way that it was necessarily intended at that time.
Hmm.
Um, so it kind of gives it a little bit of charm,
Yeah.
whenever you watch it for the first time through a DVD as opposed to through streaming or through Blu-ray or 4K or whatever. Granted, the
Yeah.
4K does look great, but, like, if you were to watch it for the first time, watching
Yeah.
it as intended probably is the best way to do
Yeah.
it.
Shouts out to DVD and VHS
Yeah.
because there's there's a lot of things that that I love about like the theatrical experience and 4K Blu-rays as well because like you said the movies do look better like when they do the 4K remaster right, but like I watched like this other like really great like YouTube essay about just like formats as well on how like watching movies like full screen to widescreen and how some movies are actually better when you watch it full screen and like the way the filmmakers intended. And I'm not saying that David Fincher did like what's it called like the way they scan to extend out the image
Yeah. I
for
know what
like
you're talking about.
widescreen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I would have loved to watch this movie like on VHS on like on a CRT just
Yeah.
because it Is there a black and white version? Would there
I
be?
don't know. I don't think so. I didn't see one on the 4K. Like, I don't see an option
Yeah.
for that on
Mhm.
the 4K. I don't know if there was ever one that they ever did. Now, if they were to do that later on down the road, I'd probably watch
I
it.
I would buy it
Yeah,
immediately.
yeah,
So,
I'd probably
because
watch it.
I think, like, that's something I think you could probably elevate this movie, to be
Yeah,
honest, if it was in black and white, just because especially, like, the way it was shot too,
yeah.
and the way it was lit. I think, like, having, like, a black and chrome, like, edition of Seven. David Fincher, if you're listening to this first episode of this podcast,
We'd
uh,
love to see it. I'm just saying,
yeah,
I'd be very curious to see how it plays out due to the fact like, how the coloration is done in this movie. I'd be
mhm,
very curious to see how the black and white actually, uh, kind of plays through onto the screen after they've kind
mhm,
of done their movie magic to make it black and white. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, I would really love to see that. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, yeah. We don't need any royalties for that,
No,
David Fincher.
no, just
That one's for free.
we just get
That
it
one's for free.
before anybody else. You just
Yeah.
send it to us early. That's all we need.
Exactly.
We don't need
Yeah.
anything else. That's all we need.
Yeah. Just send us free copies.
Yeah, yeah, that's all we ask for. Nothing crazy. Come on now. Maybe a special
Yeah.
thanks at the end of the credits. Who cares?
No, just send us just free.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
a little
want
PR package.
Yeah.
Have you looked at the Oscar nomination slash wins for Seven at all for that year?
Not really, because I think the older I get, I'm just like, the Oscars don't really mean much to me. So it's like, if something wins that I love,
Yeah,
then great. Like Everything Everywhere All at Once, I was just like, whew, they actually got something right.
yeah,
But uh, I just did a quick Google search about the Oscars it was nominated for. It was nominated for editing,
yeah.
Richard Francis Bruce,
And that's it.
and yeah,
Like, that's literally it. And then you look at
yeah,
some of the other, like, nominations within the same like, some of the other categories, and you're like,
hmm
How did this happen?"
yeah. Well, it would be the 1996 Oscars, right?
Yeah.
Or
So, Babe got Best Direction, nomination nod.
oh, jeez.
There were a couple supporting actor nods that Babe got as well as acting nods.
Hmm.
7, not at all.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens,
How
to be honest.
where in the world does that make any sense?
I don't know. I'm looking at best hold on.
'Cause, like, if you
Sorry, you can
look
cut all this
no,
out if you want.
you're good. Because 'cause I'm doing the same thing. I'm going back I looked at it last night, and some of
This is
these
a
just didn't
messy
make any
year.
sense. Yeah, oh,
It's
no, it's weird. It's really
Mel
weird.
Gibson.
Yeah.
That did not age well, to be
No,
honest.
it didn't.
Yeah.
What is Rob Roy? Like, I don't know what Rob Roy is. I feel bad for not knowing what Rob Roy is, but you're telling me Tim
Mhm.
Roth was maybe better than Kevin Spacey, and yes, I understand that he's, he won for Usual Suspects, but
Yeah.
he couldn't have got a nod for 7 as well?
I
Or
don't know.
7 instead of
It's
Usual Suspects?
it's very bizarre. I'm still a little bit shocked and awed by looking up these nominees from 1996 for the Oscars.
Yeah,
Uh,
like, the
I
weirdest.
like Babe as much as the next person, but I wouldn't nominate it for
Yeah.
any
No,
Oscar.
this is when I wanna call up, Andrews. I don't know if you know who he is from the Revisionist Almanac. Like,
Yeah.
I wanna call him up and be like, "Yo," because I went looking for it yesterday as far as the 1996 Oscars go, and they didn't have an
Mhm.
episode on that, and I was like,
Yeah.
I need to know," like, because he does a lot of research into this kinda stuff.
Yeah.
He has, like, 40 pages worth of material for his, podcast for, like, revising the Oscars of any given year,
Mhm.
and I am
Yeah.
so curious for him to look at this and also look at some of the other movies that came out this year and see what he thinks about some of these nominations and wins because they are insane. The fact that
I
7 didn't get half of these other nominations
Yeah.
is nuts.
Even even for someone that this 7 is my first watch, and I like if I were to be watching the Oscars in 1996, I would be like, "You nominated 7 for film editing, but nothing else?" I'm
Not
like, but like
cinematography? Yo, hold on. Okay, so this
mind
is
blowing.
this is one of the
Mind.
weirdest things to me. I love Batman Forever is cool, whatever. Like it's a
Mhm.
Batman Forever got a cinematography nom over 7?
Yeah. This is blowing my mind,
Like
to be
what?
honest.
Like what are we doing? Like I
Yeah,
know we are 30 years away from
yeah,
it, but it's like, what?
yeah. I'm still mind blown by Babe just being in there at all.
At
It's
all.
like I
At
need to
all.
rewatch Babe to see if it's actually a good movie
I
because
remember
I
it
don't.
Babe as a kid, it's not
It's
nomination
not.
worthy
That's like if
alongside
the
Leaving Las
Minions.
Vegas.
That's like that's like if the Minions was nominated for Best Picture
Yeah,
in the situation.
like it's absurd.
Yeah.
Film editing, sure, in Apollo 13 won
Mhm.
editing over 7?
Yeah.
I saw Apollo
And
13 earlier this year in IMAX. Sorry,
mhm.
no,
Is it the poster's right behind me,
yeah,
so yeah. Yeah.
no. Like
Yeah.
if no, it makes me
Yeah.
think that they didn't watch and makeup too. By the way,
Mm.
it makes me think that they didn't watch 7. Like whoever was voting for the 1996 Oscars, they didn't do their due diligence and actually watch the movie because they were too afraid and off put by
The
the
subject
content
matter.
of the movie. Yeah, the subject matter of
Yeah.
the movie, which I would get that. But the thing is like if you're gonna be voting on the artistic integrity of all these movies for an entire year, at least watch the fucking movie. Because I can guarantee
Yeah.
you that you're gonna put 7 in more than just editing. You're gonna put it in so many other spots, especially things like makeup and stuff.
Right.
And music also didn't get a nod. I can understand where Apollo 13 and
Mhm.
Braveheart would get a nomination for music as far as like the score and stuff. But the fact that something like The Postman, like I understand that that's a foreign film, so I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But then
Mhm.
like Sense and Sensibility, really?
It completely baffling, like on all fronts, and
Like,
like you mentioned, like it's probably because these Academy voters just didn't watch the movie because of the subject matter.
yeah,
It's very especially appalling that within the last year, the Academy voters or Academy members are now required to watch every single movie that's
yeah,
nominated for the Oscars.
and
It's
about fucking time.
like it took 30
It
like
took them
or
longer than
90
that.
years.
Yeah,
It
it took
took
them almost 100 years to get that right.
yeah,
Like, come on,
exactly.
dude,
I'm
what?
like, how does this happen?
And
How does this happen?
not only Babe got a Best Picture nomination, bro. Like,
Eh,
and 7 didn't. Like, it's just it's so weird to me that something like 7 doesn't really, because there are a lot of people that talk about it on film Twitter. You and I are both part of film
mhm,
Twitter quite a bit. We pay attention to it. We're a part of it. You know,
mhm,
they talk about it on there, but as far as like acclaim, as far as critical acclaim, it never really got the
mhm,
acclaim that it deserved.
right.
Something like this deserves some sort of like a little bit of a nod as far
Mhm.
as as these categories go. Best picture, like Babe got outvoted for best picture as far as a nomination over 7. Like,
I
yes, there are other great movies from 1995 and
mm,
the beginning of 1996 that allow people to get a nomination, but Babe for best
yeah.
picture.
I feel like the best thing that probably come from this podcast for Babe is that I'm gonna want to rewatch Babe and just see see what if it's a best picture or not.
Like, what did they see in Babe that we didn't see that we didn't see
I,
now? Like, the last time I watched Babe was when I was in school and they were rolling out the damn TV, be like, "Okay, we're just gonna, like, entertain you
oh,
guys
I
for a
miss
little
those
bit."
days. I
Yeah,
miss those days
like,
with
that was
the
literally the last time I watched it.
yeah, I think that was the last time I watched it too. It was a rainy day, and they were just like, "Today we're gonna watch Babe in the City" or whatever. I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
like,
like,
it's so baffling to me that it ends up getting all this acclaim that Babe something like Babe gets all this acclaim and not, something as well put together, as well done
Yeah.
as Seven.
But that's also just like another like uh like mark against the Academy that basically whatever wins. Well, I hope it's not the case for every single movie that wins an Oscar, just that is instantly forgotten.
Yeah,
I don't think that's the case for everything everywhere all at once, but like Babe, I forgot about that movie until until we're recording this podcast,
yeah,
actually. And but the fact that even for someone that hasn't seen Seven,
mhm,
that's still in my mind of like this is a Fincher film and it's like highly acclaimed. And just because it didn't win any awards, that's not like a mark against it or anything like that. It just sucks that Fincher has to like basically wait until The Social Network for him to actually get the recognition that he deserves. Granted, the Social Network is probably one of the better movies ever made. Probably, I think it's his best movie in his filmography.
yeah,
But it's unfortunate that he couldn't get that recognition with Sevens because I think Seven is like a really strong film. But
yeah.
yeah,
Um,
Mhm.
I
Oh,
was gonna ask something. I just lost my
brain
track.
fart.
Yep, there, yep. What categories would you have put it in if you were to put it in Oscar categories?
I think I would Morgan Freeman Best Actor,
Okay,
even though I think it would be a toss up. You could either put Best Actor for Brad Pitt or Morgan Freeman,
okay,
and then vice versa. I would for supporting, I would either put Brad Pitt or Morgan Freeman there, and then Fincher for directing,
yeah,
best picture, obviously, score for sure. And then sound editing too, because I
yeah,
think like this, like especially like what I was talking about, like with the rain. I like that how without the score being there, you still kind of like hear hear like the darkness of this city,
mhm,
like with the rain coming down and just like you really hear the dread. And I sound editing, I feel like, especially now more than ever, like that, especially because at this time it was two different categories: sound mixing and sound editing. Now it's just best sound, which I feel like is a huge it's a huge what's I just brain farted on the word. Um, it's a huge disservice to sound engineers and sound mixers, just because they do a lot of great work to make you feel a certain way, and to say like, "Oh, it's just best sound," kind of disrespectful in my opinion.
yeah.
So
I get that.
yeah,
Is there? Do you believe that this movie kind of holds up today?
I think definitely it holds up today, especially with some of the subject matter and just the themes about community. The themes that this movie is trying to say about invite people into your life, because if you don't, like, you might end up down a path that you weren't expecting, or that you don't necessarily want, like, in your life. So accept people into your life and don't be closed off to like certain perspectives. So, and I think now more than ever, when a lot of us when a lot of us are kind of like stuck within these echo chambers,
Mhm.
and we need to like break outside of like our own bubbles and like have like these important conversations like we're having right now. It's I think, yeah, we need this movie now more than ever, so we can kind of see the darkness that can come from not going outside our bubbles. So,
Yeah. Is there anything interesting that you found out about this movie? Like outside of like, if you were to do any research outside of your watch, that you found anything interesting or?
well, I think what I mentioned before about Brad Pitt injuring himself on
Yeah.
set, I
Yeah.
thought that was actually kind of funny. And then I don't know. I think just Fincher is just a really interesting filmmaker and director. Like, I mentioned this already before too, that I think making the transition from music videos to like feature film director is probably the most interesting path, just because you a lot of people direct music videos, and that's really all that they do. And there's a select group of people that kind of can break through that noise and break out of that industry of directing music videos. So it's interesting to see Fincher's path on the way to that. And I think that this, like, his earlier career is probably the most fascinating to me, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself that it took me this long to see like a movie like this, is because I am really fascinated with Fincher's early career, because this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I like Alien 3. Alien 3 is like,
Okay.
it's, I think you see a lot of elements of 7 that from Alien 3, and I don't know. It's yeah, Fincher's a fascinating filmmaker, and
Yeah.
I think more people should watch his movies and give him the respect he deserves.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Well, as is theme with this podcast, this is the First Watch podcast, so I'm going to end every single episode with these last two questions. The first of it being, do you believe that if anyone has not seen the movie Seven, that they should indeed make it a first watch?
I think they should. I think that I like I said at the beginning of this podcast, that there's so many movies that come out every single year, and I just talked to someone recently at my job where they've only seen like 20 movies this year, and they say that they don't have time. I know, it's kind of mind blowing.
I'm
Like,
sitting at like 200. Okay.
I'm 140 right
Yeah.
now. So, but uh, like, even if you don't have time to like watch movies, like, th- th- fit this movie into your schedule, like, or fit uh any kind of like black holes that you have like in like someone's filmography, like, into your schedule, because so watching movies is important all around, and if you haven't seen something, it will open your eyes to new perspectives, and yeah, but I
Nice.
don't know, yeah.
So, last question for you here, Marley.
Mhm.
There is there a movie out there that you think has not been talked about enough that you would recommend to someone that they should watch for the first time?
Um,
Something that's kind of rather obscure or something that you see that a lot of people, haven't really seen, but you think is really good and should be seen.
shoot. No, not a shameless plug, but I worked on a movie in 2016.
Okay.
It's directed by Chris Brown, the good Chris Brown. I don't know if you ever,
Not the other one.
uh, it's called The Other Kids,
Okay.
and it was one of the first movies that I ever worked on as like a PA,
Okay.
and it's a really fascinating. It was a really fascinating experience for me, and I haven't talked about this movie like on social media for like the longest time because it was hard for people to watch. But now that it's like available on most streaming platforms, like free streaming platforms for to be specific, I think that this movie is really incredible, and not just saying that because I hoped during its production, but it's about like the I believe 6 to 7 high school seniors, and like when you're a senior in high school, we're all kind of going through like what to do like with life after, and it's about them kind of like exploring what they're going to do, whether they're going to go to the military or uh, go to college or continue to work in the workforce and stuff like that. And it's the Chris Brown, the person that directed this movie, he called it a fictionary,
Okay.
where it's like we basically took all these kids and they were the ones that wrote the script, and because we didn't know what it was like to be a kid because we're all way older. So we kind of had like a basic outline, and then they kind of like form it all. So the production of this movie was very like, it felt like summer camp in a way, because it was like every few months we would just get together and like film certain scenes, and they would like work out the dialogue amongst themselves because it's like the this is the lingo or the vocab that they um, that they established like during the times when we weren't together. So it's a really fascinating movie about just finding yourselves as like a kid going into adulthood. But
Nice. I
yeah,
like that. I'm definitely
but
gonna have to
it's
give it a watch.
it's the other kids, and it came out in 2016. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. Well, Marley, where can we find you? I know we've already talked about this in the beginning, but just to reiterate, where can we find you online?
First of all, Drake, I really appreciate you having me
Of
on
course.
for your first episode. It was a very humbling experience. So I'm glad to kickstart your podcasting journey.
Thank you.
I know you've been on other podcasts, like
Yeah.
the Commentary Pod, and also on the Vikash's Cinema Pursuit podcast. But this is your own. This is your own venture. But I always say at the end of every podcast, if people don't find me annoying, by the by the end of every podcast I'm on, you could follow me everywhere on social media with the username at Marley Loves Movies. As you could tell, I'm wearing an unpaid movie critic sweatshirt. Not mine. Although I do, if people want merch from me, I will definitely start working on that. But I'm talking about movies everywhere on social media with the username at Marley Loves Movies. Trying to get break out into my YouTube game, but my podcast, the Real Lovers podcast, is hosted on the YouTube channel Marley Loves Movies as well, and you can listen to my podcast, the Real Lovers podcast, where we're covering all of the movies in the Letterbox Top 250. Which Drake, you're welcome to come on
I will definitely be there.
for multiple episodes, and we're finishing up the M Night Shyamalan retrospective that we're doing. When's this episode going to come out, Drake?
I'm hoping before the end of November. I've got a few other things that I've got to get squared away before it comes out.
Okay. Well, if when it comes out, hopefully the M Night Shyamalan retrospective will be done.
Okay.
If not, I think the latest episode of that will be old.
Okay.
M Night Shyamalan's old, so yeah.
Okay.
But thanks again, Drake.
Of
This has
course.
been a really humbling and wonderful experience, and I like that. We talked about this great David Fincher movie.
Yeah,
Seven.
it's one of
So
my favorite movies, and I'm glad that
yeah,
we got to formally meet each other
yeah,
by
yeah.
talking about one of my favorite movies. Um,
and knocked us off my ever growing
yeah,
watch list as
yeah,
well. So
it's what
yeah.
I that's kind of the whole point of this podcast is to kind of get other people to watch other movies for the first time. Even myself, I know
Hmm.
there's a couple of movies down the line that we've already got squared away that'll be my first watch as well as Vikash's first watch. Um,
Hmm.
and that's kind of the whole point of this podcast is to finally start to chip away at
Hmm.
all of our watch lists, so
Yeah.
that we can start to watch more movies and talk about them and see kind of whether or not we can convince other people to watch them as well.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun doing this. Thank you so much for coming on to the first episode of the First Watch podcast.
Mhm.
Um, Thank you everybody who is listening currently. Um, I'm not going to necessarily say what other movies we have in the pipeline, but we do have a few that are already in the pipeline and going to be recording here pretty soon. And
Mhm.
I cannot wait for everyone to hear those. Again, if you want to go find Marley, go find him on Marley Loves Movies. There we go.
Mhm.
Right, and
Yeah.
then Real
Mhm.
Lovers Podcast, obviously. I will have you on again later on down
Mhm.
the road. Just you're just gonna have to shoot me some movies, and we can figure out which one to watch next.
Well, I think we hinted at something else during the recording of this, but we don't talk about that.
Right. Yeah, we're gonna have
Yeah.
to do that. We're gonna have to
Yeah.
do that. We'll do that in a couple weeks, probably in December if you'd like. All right. Well, thank you again for coming on. It was a blast. I can't wait to do another one here pretty soon, and of course, go over to the Real Lovers podcast and kind of, I guess, feature on there at some point.
Mhm.
Um, we had a lot of fun. I'm glad you came on. I hope everybody enjoyed this podcast, and I can't wait to see you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.